Hello everyone, I'm Emily.
And I'm Scar.
And welcome to another episode of the Cottage Tours podcast. We have an exciting and nostalgic episode for you today.
Yeah, blast from the past. Going back, how many? Well, a decade, I guess.
Ish. Because it's like, I feel like the era we're talking about is kind of like 2010, maybe more like 2012 to like 2016.
Yeah, I peg it about that too.
Yeah. I usually just like call it the 2014 Tumblr era. Because it's
Kinda
like
sums it up.
middle ground.
Yeah, it sums it up. Yeah, I was just thinking like when I was like well, I guess I still am like kind of chronically online in aspects, but nothing. 14-year-old me was really out here with probably absurd screen time.
Okay, wait. You're saying 14-year-old you. What year are you? What year were you 14 in?
I would have been 14 in 2015.
That's so wild.
I was in well, I don't know what that is for you. I was like in secondary school. I was like pre-teen during that era. Basically.
I was graduated from high school and going to college in 2015.
This is why it's also interesting because we were, despite being in the same like bubble, we were experiencing at different stages in our life.
Very different, yeah, for sure.
Stages in our life, which I think is very fascinating because I'm like, I was there, but like I was a different type of present to like someone else who was also in that era.
Yeah, I would say like my hardcore Twitter phase was probably like it started in like 2013. That's when I was like running fan accounts and shit.
Oh
yeah. And like my big Tumblr, like I was still in it like even like post high school and everything, but not to the same degree just because like I was also working and like
yeah,
all sorts
exactly.
of stuff. So yeah, I would say like 2013 was probably more like my like peak, but I was still in it. Like let's not be honest. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that whole time, and part of me, I feel like people are dipping back into it. Like,
yeah,
Tumblr has made its revival, sort of. They have Tumblr TV now, I guess, which is a thing. So like,
what is that?
It's like their version of Reels and TikTok and shit, basically.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of made its resurgence. I mean, I say resurgence because everyone left the platform when it like censored itself, which is incredibly funny when you think about it. Like that is so funny that this censorship caused like a mass movement elsewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, people are dabbled back in, I think. You know.
I never like
for better or for worse.
I stopped using the platform, but like my blog is still there. Like I never got rid of it.
Oh, same.
So
yeah, mine's
I still have the same blog I had from like over a decade ago, which is
I had like so many, and so many have just lost the voice. I don't remember the passwords, but yeah, I still have like the most recent one that I had. Yeah, I had so many going on because I used to have like honestly, I had like a main one, and then I had one for like every interest, and I'm like, this was so much upkeep. Like, what was I doing?
No, same. And like honestly, the way I was like low-key learning to code just from like editing my Tumblr blog.
Yeah, and when you'd like write a text post and you'd have to put all in like the little like what are they called? The little sideways
carrots
V's
and
stuff. And for HTML, and you'd like put spoiler warnings in, and you do your little like page break, and you'd like link to the next chapter if you were writing something on that. Oh my god! Yeah, I was really out here doing the most. I was doing so much.
Yeah, no, honestly, I know so many like internet hacks now, but like 10 years ago, another level.
Oh yeah, because you had to be on the ball because you had to also like be in the know, like otherwise you felt excluded. Because I'm like, how are people doing all this little cute like fun sparkles at the top of their like text posts? You have to like learn how to do it.
I wanted to be Tumblr famous so bad.
Oh yeah. It was like so cool when you like got asked in your inbox and you're like, people care about me.
Yes.
Want to ask me questions.
For sure. I like around that time I was trying to do the Tumblr thing. I was trying to do the YouTube thing.
Oh yeah. All of it. Doing it all. I do desperately just miss just not even caring.
Like there is a particular photo that I took, and I think I've showed it to you. I don't remember why I showed it to you, but I'm pretty sure I did. And I'm like sitting inside this like picture frame, and I'm like looking off into the distance.
Yes.
And like it is the most Tumblr photo I think I ever took.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
I
sad
even
that I
like
don't have
drew
any
like a little
photos.
fake tattoo on my foot.
Yes, because I think I said, "What is that?" And you were like, "Oh, it's a fake
Yeah.
tattoo I drew." And I was like, "You've really committed to the bit here."
That was like a thing. You would like draw on yourself a Sharpie and then
Yeah,
like hairspray it on or something so it would like last even longer.
the things we did, the
Which,
things we
mind you, I'm
did.
pretty sure in that photo I was 18 and could have gotten a legal tattoo.
But you
But
just
like,
chose not to.
thank God 18-year-old Emily didn't get more tattoos.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm glad that I was like underage during that era, because oh my days, I would have been in trouble. Like, I would have been very much more destructive than I probably should have been at that age. So it's probably for the
Yeah, like
best.
18-year-old Emily was going to get a Disney tattoo. And
Yeah.
I hate to admit this, all-time low lyrics.
Oh no. Yeah, but people did. Like, this is the
I know.
thing. Like this is what's funny. Like, it's not funny because I'm like, listen, if you have one of those tattoos, good for you. Unless you hate it, then obviously I'm sorry that you have done that. But
Yeah.
I'm like, people who got like mustaches tattooed on their fingers so they could do this. Like,
Oh
there's
my
so
God.
much.
The Deathly Hollows tattoos.
Yes. I know so many people with those.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this was a conscious decision that you have made.
Although, to be fair, even at the time, I thought the Deathly Hollows were like not the choice, not the
No,
vibe.
yeah. I was like, this is a bit.
I was gonna get for my Harry Potter tattoo. I was gonna get the little stars on the corner of the pages,
Oh, yes. Yes. That
which I
is
know is
quite
not unique
popular.
either. But
Yeah, but still, it's different. Like, different to the
yeah,
masses of people who get like wands and stuff and bits. Yeah, for sure, for the best that I did not have adult money, adult opportunities, means, modes, all of that, because it would have been
yeah,
dangerous for everyone involved. No
hundred
thanks.
percent, 100%. I
Yeah.
actually we went to the mall a couple weeks ago. Like my mall is dying. Okay, it
Mm.
is barely standing. But when we were there, I found out that Zoomies was closed.
What
Did
the
you guys
fuck
have
is that?
Zoomies?
What the fuck is that?
Oh my god. Zoomies was like the like skater e-boy shop.
Oh, sick. Okay.
And there was a guy who worked there. Okay, so my type when I was like younger, like in high school, which it's so funny if you know what my husband looks like, um, was like the like skinny, looks like he could be a rock star and does drugs. Like that was what I was
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
And there was a guy that worked at Zoomies that I had such a crush on him. And I would like go in there and like shop for clothes, trying to be like all like
Oh,
cool.
oh god. Oh god. No, we
Yeah.
never had. I think we did have some shops like that, but they would have like more been in like, considering where I live, it's not that vibe at all.
Mm,
Like,
valid.
there would have been more places like London and bits and pieces, but yeah. Oh, yeah, all those like Tumblr rebooks you do of all these like skater boys. Ew, ew.
Yeah, yeah.
Now it's like that is like my biggest, like, that is an ick for me. I'd be like, that is repulsive to me. No
Oh
offense to
yeah.
all skate boys out there, but like, I don't know. I'm sorry, men can't have hobbies. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, of course. But
But like
also,
basically, my type was Sebastian from Stardew Valley.
that makes kind of some sense given like other information I know about you, especially like at the time, and like other things. That does make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think my type in that era was probably more Sam from Stardew Valley. I feel
Mm,
I was
okay.
definitely very much into like the musician kind of edgy, but like not full like emo edgy, but like kind of on the
Yeah.
periphery vibes, I think. Yeah. Speaking of bands, though,
And our
someone has a
types.
someone has a presentation on hand.
I do. Okay, let me share.
I'm so excited to see this. I know literally nothing, absolutely nothing. This is gonna be wonderful. Oh my days. Okay. Do we need to give like a of how this came to be, because I feel like, maybe some exposition is needed.
Yeah, so basically, we were talking about like the bands of that era and stuff like that. And I made a comment about how I think your favorite of certain bands like A tells you about yourself and B is like semi predictable. And I will get into that more into the presentation. But so I made a TikTok and y'all showed up for me, okay?
Oh yeah, for real.
Y'all showed up. And
Yeah,
I asked you what your favorite band members of certain bands are, and we will get into the band shortly. And I took that data, manually compiled it into a Google sheet. I typed out every single comment that we got on that video. 95 comments, by the way. Manually typed them all out, and I did some analysis. And so that is what this presentation is.
You have there's a pretty good data haul there. You actually have a pretty decent sample size. So
yeah,
that is impressive. This actually could be a research paper because you have a big sample size.
I do. And so I decided to turn into a presentation, and I got some, iconic Tumblr pieces here. We have Wattpad because, listen, I know AO3 is now the champion, but in that day, Wattpad was king. We have a nice messy bun with a flower crown. We have...
Fuck's sake.
She believed he lied.
One of the most iconic internet pieces in history, I think.
Yes, and it's so funny because we're going to segue just a little bit. With everything going on in the state of America, people are like using this type of writing and like capitalizing certain letters and words like in the most random sentences to spell out like this is a coup, and I'm like, first off, bestie, if the government is reading this, I'm pretty sure they can read capital fucking letters. Like, what are you trying to hide?
Yeah. Yeah, so, it's not the most subtle thing in the world, but you know.
We have a nice little cigarette. We have okay. Which listen, I know Fault in Our Stars is like problematic-ish, not really, like people go back and forth, but listen, that book, although if we're going to talk about favorite John Green book, Looking for Alaska is better in my opinion.
Yeah, I also preferred Looking for Alaska, to be fair, as well.
Yeah. But so today we're going to dive into the Tumblr era. I put parentheses around boy band analysis because not all of them are boy bands technically.
Yeah. Funny description around what makes a boy band, but whatever.
Technically, if they play instruments, they are not a boy band.
Yeah.
So, and like technically boy bands tend to be more like choreographed.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. More like K-pop era kind of as we are in a little bit.
Yes. Okay, so let's get into it. Who are the bands? We have, of course, One Direction. We have Classic. 5 Seconds of Summer. We have Big Time Rush. And we have the Jonas Brothers. Now, I would just also like to say the last two bands there, I know they're like hella problematic now. We're not going to get into that. Don't support them. They're just part of the research here.
Yes.
Okay?
They are part of the era. It would be naive to ignore them.
Yes. So, I asked people who their favorite members were. I want you to guess, who do you think the top member of One Direction was?
I'm going to say Louis.
All right. And it was, in fact, Niall.
Really?
I thought it was going to be Harry.
I don't... This is also part of the problem, right? Just to, not to set the tone off, but I wonder if you'd polled these people at the time of, let's say, the height of One Direction, if their answers would be different. Are they looking back on it with a lens of who is my favourite collectively? Because I would feel like that is not maybe an accurate representation. But then maybe all the people who saw that TikTok just happened to be massive Niall fans and you just found them all in the woods.
Some people did give like two answers. They would be like, this is me then and this is me now. And I did include both answers in the research. Okay. So
interesting. That is a shock, I will say. I mean, Niall was my favourite. So I'm coming from that as someone whose favourite was Niall as well. So, but I find that shocking. Interesting.
Yeah, if you want to see the full breakdown.
Wow.
So Niall got about 32% of the votes. Harry was not too far behind at just under 28%. And then there was Louis at about 25.5%. What kind of surprised me was, now this might be what you were saying, Zayn being so low. I think it's because people looking back on the lens. of him leaving the band, and it made people upset because I feel like back in the day, I remember way more people being Zayn girls. And then only 5.3% for Liam. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
But
damn,
I thought it was an interesting divide.
That is a very interesting. That is not what I would have anticipated. I would have maybe expected, like, in terms of the order, Niall and Louis to maybe have been switched. I can understand, like, it would make the most logical sense if Harry was first, but I was just thinking a little bit of a curveball.
Yeah. See, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like not a lot of people were Louis girls. I was a Louis girl.
I don't know. I know quite a lot of people who were, though. So maybe it just depends. Maybe it just depends.
Maybe it just depends on the sphere you were running in, because I felt like I was out there fighting for my life being a Louis girl. Not as much as the Liam girls. I will say I didn't know many Liam girls.
I don't think I have ever known anyone, personally.
I think I knew one in my, like, Stan Twitter group.
Yeah, I didn't know any.
Yeah, I think there was one. But who was your favorite? Not from a ship perspective, but, like, who was your favorite, like, two boy, like, pairing?
I quite like Zayn and Niall together.
Okay. I was a big
good vibes
Zayn
on stage.
Louis.
Yeah, I feel like Zayn had really good chemistry with a lot of, like, with them all.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he like matched the vibes quite well.
Yeah, Louis being at Zayn's concert recently, like, healed a little part of me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all very, like, emotionally charged. I feel like it's sad. It's sad.
All right, moving swiftly along, 5 Seconds of Summer. Would you like to place a guess of who you think came out on top for the 5 Sauce Boys?
This is actually really tricky because I feel like people are quite. I don't want to say maybe necessarily equally divided, but it certainly feels like there's less of, like, one person lagging behind. But maybe it's just because I don't know. I'm gonna just go with my gut and say Luke.
Okay. And just before we get into it, your favorite was
Ashton.
Ashton, right? Okay. I was also an Ashton girly, which, actually, fun fact, I did make a TikTok about this on my personal account. I was an Ashton girly to my core, okay? But someone I was friends with at the time, like, in real life friend, had already claimed him, and you couldn't have the same fave as your friend.
No, you could.
It was just basic respect. So I convinced myself to be a Callum girly, and this is nothing against Callum. I love them all, okay? They're all wonderful.
Yeah, but still.
But deep down, in my heart of hearts, I was an Ashton girly. Now, I will say, being a Callum girly at the time that his Snapchat got leaked, that was a ride. That was a ride.
That was definitely a ride, yeah. Yeah. Girl code was not having the same faves overlap. It was war out there. You had to stake your claim and then stand by your man. Because it was brutal.
It was because we were definitely going to meet them and fall in love with them, and, like, what would happen if both me and my friend met Ashton? Like, we can't fight over
exactly. Yeah, if you went to a concert together and they pulled your friend group out in the crowd, you have to know the dynamics at hand. Like, it's really important.
Yeah. It's just basic girl code for sure.
It is, yeah.
All right, so you have Luke as what you think is the top?
Yeah, I'm not really confident on that, though, to be honest, because I don't know. I just knew a lot of people who were, like, obsessed with him.
Fair. So the actual winner of our research was our boy Ashton.
Interesting. Okay, okay, it does make sense. I feel like like, you could tell me any of them and I'd be like, yeah, sure. Like, I'd be like, yeah, sounds correct to me.
Now, here's the full breakdown, which I find fascinating. Ashton was ahead of Luke by a good, like, 10%.
That is crazy.
Yes.
Because that's what I said. I thought it was going to be more close, like, because it is between the other three.
Yes.
Kind of. I thought it was going to be kind of more equally shared. I guess it kind of is, but
I'm kind of surprised that Callum is over Michael, or under Michael, I mean.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I am intrigued by this. This is not the data I anticipated.
I know. But yeah.
That's why it's exciting, though. So I'm like, oh, let's go against a curve.
All right, next up we have Big Time Rush. I will also say, I was not a big BTR girly. I watched the TV show, and I, like, kind of listened to their music. but I would never have considered myself like a full blown stan.
Yeah, I was a big fan. I like what loved the show, listened to their music. Yeah, like my big three, as I mentioned before, was probably 1D, BTR, and Five Sauce was probably like my big three in that era.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is also tough. Is it though? I feel like it has to be Kendall, but then I'm like, are we gonna get another fucking like major curveball coming in here, and it's gonna be someone really fucking random? Like I don't know, because I was always a Logan girly. The theme is theming for me. I'm sure everyone can tell. No, I'll stick with my guns on my guess. I know it's gonna be wrong because I've been 0 for 3, but
Okay, you're going
maybe
Kendall
I'll
then?
get one right. Yeah.
Kendall was my fave as well. Well, not as well. Like yours was Logan. I'm just saying Kendall was my fave.
Yeah.
So you are correct. It was Kendall.
Okay. I'm relieved because yeah. Okay. Good. I got one. I know it's not a quiz, but I've taken it as a quiz in my head.
Well, you're not averaging very well right now.
No, I know. I'm literally failing.
Okay, so the breakdown for this one, Kendall and Logan were definitely the faves.
That makes sense, I think.
Yeah. And then James and Carlos were kind of split. Now I'm gonna say something, okay? I only watched the show, and this was another era, but I always thought James was gonna be fruity. He was given, which is it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But like for like the James girlies were confusing me because I'm just like, I really thought that was a gay man.
He is quite camp. Although to be fair, the show in general was quite camp. I'm not quite sure what was cooking over there. I wonder how much, or maybe not. I don't know. I'm trying to think of how much Carlos may be tampered. I know they're all kind of inherently problematic now, but I wonder how much Carlos has been tampered with, like recent events.
Because he was like kind of the first like problematic to come out.
He was like big Trump supporter, and we were like, oh.
Did that here's come the thing. From? No, see, I was not surprised that he was a Trump supporter because
but like it just
him and his wife were like super, which first off, he's married to Carmen from Spy Kids. That's also wild. But
that's also wild, yeah.
I didn't like keep up with them, but I had like seen some of their stuff. They were like super conservative Christian. So
I didn't know that. I just saw a TikTok one day, like a TikTok from him wearing a hat, and everyone was like, "What the actual fuck?" And I was like, "Yeah, what? Well, this came out of nowhere." Like,
no,
in my sphere.
I've seen some of their stuff. Oh, I know why I knew this. I was like, why was I keeping up with them? It's because he was in Grease Live.
Really?
Yes, he was in Grease Live, and Aaron Tveit was also in Grease Live, and Aaron Tveit is like one of the loves of my life. So this was like heavy in my Aaron Tveit phase. So I was like kind of like Jordan Fisher was also in it. Fun fact. So I was like kind of just like looking into all of them because it was kind of like one of those, oh my god, Carlos from Big Time Rush, like what's he up to these days? Like haven't seen him in a while, and I realized that like him and his wife were like, and that's not to say conservative Christians are always Trump supporters, but the way they spoke, like the way they wrote like Instagram captions and stuff, I was like, it's giving Republican.
Yeah.
So I was not surprised when he came out as a Trump supporter. I was like, nope, that checks actually.
It just it just kind of like I hadn't kept tabs with them, and then one day it broke TikTok essentially. And it was like right when they were like gonna go back on tour or like do their reunion tour. Like I think they just announced they were like getting back together, and then like that came out, and it felt like really bad fucking like timing of PR. You know what I mean? I was like, you kind of failed here.
They like tried to do a resurgence, and then like just like quietly died back off.
Well, they did do a tour. They did go on tour.
Did they?
But yeah.
Did anybody go?
Well, I don't know. But they did go on tour. They definitely did a European tour, so I'm assuming they did elsewhere because I know they were around. But yeah,
fast.
Yeah,
like so I didn't keep up with them like super hard, so I wasn't like, oh my god. Now, if One Direction did a reunion tour, Front row, baby. Front row.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Although, I feel like every year we stray further from anything remotely happening.
Well, yeah, and especially now that unfortunately Liam is no longer with us. It's like,
Yeah. Kind of puts a little bit of a spanner in the works, I suppose.
I've heard rumors though that they might be doing like a mini reunion, like in remembrance of him at like one of the award shows or something.
I just fear
I
that
think,
that is not going to be what they think it's going to be.
yeah,
Like, I think people are going to be like, and listen, there's nothing wrong. This is not me being like, ooh, obsessive fangirls are bad. Like, I think there's a level to it. But I'm like, there's a time and place for that behavior, and it's not at that kind of event if that's what they're putting on for. Like, it feels
yeah, no, for
inappropriate
sure.
if they were to do like the best of 1D and people would be fucking screaming when they're like mourning their bandmate's death. It
No,
feels
that's
like
so
the
valid.
disconnect's a little bit odd.
No,
I'm
no,
like,
I
oh,
agree. It's weird.
it's weird. It is weird. It is weird.
All
Yeah.
right, we'll move on to our last band, the Jonas Brothers.
Mm.
Your fave was Nick.
Yeah, I consumed Jonas Brothers, but like I wouldn't say I was by any means a fan of the Jonas Brothers per se. I like
I was a
ran in
fan,
the
but
circle, I guess.
for me, my Jonas Brothers phase was like pre One Direction Five Sauce
Yeah.
because they've been around a lot longer. So like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
my love for them was like
Yeah.
pre that era. It was when I was younger, like later middle school.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think I never really truly dabbled in that. Like I was kind of running parallel to it almost kind of thing.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. I feel
I was a
like
Joe girly though, so
yeah, I was gonna say it feels like Joe should be the popular choice, but I'd be interested to see if that's what we get from the data.
well, you are correct. Also,
I would have been shocked to my core if I was incorrect.
I should have just put Kevin up there just to really throw you.
I would have been like, I genuinely would have needs to like sought help. No offense to Kevin personally, but like that would have been crazy.
I know. Also, I'd just like to say, Joe Jonas, I have not forgiven you for what you did to Taylor Swift and Sophie Turner, so we're just putting that on the table.
Yeah, all my homies hate Joe Jonas.
Yes, all my homies hate Joe Jonas. I will show you the breakdown, though.
Okay. Yeah, that's. Oh, that is actually like so awful, but like makes so much sense.
Kevin really is the Aunt Peggy of the group.
Oh,
But
yeah.
here's the thing: he's also super like conservative. I mean, they're all problematic
Yeah,
now.
they're all
but,
problematic.
So I don't really
yeah.
feel bad for him.
No. This is a pie chart of why trios never work right here. Because what is happening?
I think what's just worse about it is that they're brothers.
That's what I mean. Like it feels inherently meaner because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
they are all connected by blood. You know what I mean? Like when it's different, it's
Like they all look
would,
similar.
That's what I mean. Like they're all like obviously I know personality is a big thing, and this is where it shines through. But it's like, in other ones you're like, well, maybe you just don't have a preference for blondes or whatever. But I'm like, these genuinely are like genetically similar people.
Yes.
Oh dear.
They're literally same person, different font.
Yeah, literally. But yeah, the disparity is deafening.
Which it's always been like this though. Like Kevin has always been the least favorite. So this one's but it's not also recent. Because
no, but he also had like I also feel like genuinely from like a celebrity standpoint, Nick and Joe were always like more pushed to the front of the like center stage. Like when you think about the paths they have continued to go on as well. Like I know this is probably this has persisted throughout time, but like they are still very like relevant and have been continuously relevant throughout the Jonas Brothers era. Whereas I feel like Kevin's just always been to the wayside, just kind of like been there.
Yeah,
it's like no one really like cared. About
how their like PR team really pushed Nick having diabetes as like a thing. Because like in hindsight, that was really weird.
I don't really know what any of them or any of their like marketing PR strategy team were doing for a lot of their careers.
Yeah.
They got so
The purity
Disneyified that they
rings.
couldn't. Yeah, they got so Disneyified that they then couldn't break out. It's a very weird
But it's
journey
also
that they've gone on.
like I I have not deep dived into it, but like the way I'm pretty sure Demi Lovato hooked up with both Nick and Joe,
That's got to be weird. Not
right?
even just like for everyone involved.
Yeah. Like I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
There's a lot
Unless
there.
her and Joe were just PR, which is possible, but like
Yeah, but how? Yeah, but that's still fucked though. Like it's still
yeah, no,
mentally
I agree.
weird.
I agree. And then the whole Selena Miley drama with Nick.
There was so much going on, and for what? Like,
Yeah.
for what though? Because who was this? Who was this drama really for? Because when their primary audience was like tween teenage girls. It was like,
Well, and like it was on the internet, but it wasn't on the internet in the same way. Like I'm sorry,
no.
when Miley and her friend like made that video like mocking Selena and Demi, do you remember that shit? Oh my
Yes,
god.
the way
That
you
was
got that
insane.
information was like through fucking like Chinese whispers online. Like it was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And the magazines you'd get as a kid, and they would be like hot gossip. Like
Oh,
that was the shit you'd have to read. I'd be
listen,
like, I need to go to Tesco, Mum, and buy a magazine because I need to know what's going on in Teen Pop Weekly. It's important to my well-being.
I desperately miss decorating my room with the
Yeah.
posters you'd pull out of J14 and all that stuff. Oh my god. And the
And
quizzes, the
I was gonna
quizzes you
say,
take.
do all the quizzes being like, how do you know if he likes you? And you'd like circle the options and like, oh, maybe next time. And it'd be like the most humbling, embarrassing thing ever. And you're like, no, I
Yeah.
promise. That was such an era.
Uh,
Man. Yeah, see, I know they kind of exist still, but like, it's just not the same
do
because you have
they?
the internet.
See,
They do. They do still exist, definitely.
okay. I don't
But like,
seek
you can
them
get.
out, so therefore I don't see
No.
them.
But I know they do exist because I've seen, like, I've, like, when I've been in shops, like usually, well, I don't know. I guess is it the same for you? But like usually the magazine aisle is like the first thing you walk down. Um, in most supermarkets, you just see them. So there are definitely like still teen
Mm.
magazines. I'm assuming they have the same format, but it doesn't hit the same because you can get that information online. So it's kind of
I
boring.
kind of want to go find one though and like see who the people are because I feel like I'm not going
That's
to know
true.
any of them.
Well, to be fair, I would say a lot of them have shifted now to like mainstream people. Like I feel like unless you go specific, a lot of them it's usually always like Taylor Swift, Sabrina Carpenter, like you know
Yeah,
what I
that's
mean?
fair.
Like it feels like there isn't really anything else going on.
I know K-pop is really big, and I'm truthfully do not really keep up with K-pop. But like,
No.
who is like the band right now? I feel like I
There
haven't heard of any like boy
no
parenthesis band.
Western wise, no.
Yeah,
No.
we don't
We've
really
ended
have
that
any.
era. We've ended that era, yeah.
Ugh, tragic.
Well, it's because like K-pop and J-pop do it so well that you
That's
you
true.
you now cannot like as a group of white men say you're a band when they're out here doing like full on like crazy shows, choreography that's insane, the most crazy music videos I've ever seen in my life. Like you just cannot match that vibe. Like I feel like that
That's
is
fair.
so hard.
And I will say, Five Sauce is still around. They have not gone anywhere.
Yes, but still,
They're gonna have a new album probably this
yeah.
year, but they're not a boy band.
No, and also like they aren't new on the scene, you know, as much as
No,
that is devastating to
they're
say.
also
But
they have never been the it band. Like they are
no,
the
they've always been on
most
the edge.
unknown famous band
Yeah, they've
ever.
always been on the
It's
periphery for
so
sure.
weird.
It's because of where they're from. Because they don't have like a mainstay. Like I know they're big in like let's say America and Europe, but because they aren't from there, I think it impacts their pull
Yeah,
because they
maybe.
don't feel very they don't they feel relatable in the sense of like what they are, but like when you think about like 1D having that English charm and then you have like the kind of typical American like stereotypes, like they kind of fall into a very weird periphery where like in your brain the classic kind of like surfer boy musician type doesn't always necessarily overlap in your brain, so it
That's
feels like
fair.
they kind of sit on the edge. At least that's how I kind of view it, where I'm like they just don't have a big like localization pull. I don't
That's
know.
fair. That's fair.
They
It's a
just
weird
float
one.
around. It is a weird one. They always just kind of been not second best sounds rude, but I just mean like second best in terms of like always the second talked about. Like it's always been
Mm-hmm.
and five sauce, not five sauce and. That's kind of how it's always been.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And now it's their time to shine and take the frame.
Yes. Speaking of five sauce, okay, so as I mentioned in the beginning, I think now I'm mostly going to focus on One Direction and Five Sauce because I know those bands better, and I think the similarities between them is like way, way more relevant.
Yes. Yeah.
Because your fave of both bands says something about you. Okay, here's the thing: if you're a Harry, and I'm going to use girlies, but like it's gender neutral. Okay,
yes.
We're all girlies up.
Girlies are gender neutral. Girlies are gender neutral term. Fight me.
The Harry girlies, you are either a Luke girly or an Ashton girly, and it's dependent on two things. Okay, it's dependent on number one, your thoughts on bandanas, and number two, how much Mafia fan fiction you read.
That is so correct. That is so correct.
Because if you read a lot of it, okay, you're a Luke girly, and if you didn't,
yeah,
you're an Ashton girly.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Hold on, I have to pull up my little chart again.
Oh damn, the chart has been prepared.
It's in
like
here.
A
You'll
and B
see
routes.
it, but I don't want to show you too early.
Okay, I do like these A and B routes that you've provided. Like A, you've taken this path. So there's yes and no things you do in this magazines where it's like,
well,
do you wake up and need a cup of coffee in the morning? Yes or no, but still, it's like
the Louis girlies. Myself, you're an Ashton girly because you like the eldest unofficial/official father figure of the group and you have daddy issues. I don't write the rules, I simply abide by them. I was a Louis Ashton girly. I'm sorry.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
That
it just is.
That clocks.
It just is.
I mean, you clocked yourself, so
I did. I did. That's what I'm saying. I don't make the rules. I simply live them.
Yeah. Noted.
The Zayn girlies, a lot of times are going to be Michael girlies, and the reason is you are going for the member that doesn't feel like they should be in that group, but they are also a very integral part of the group.
Yes. Yeah. That checks out. That
is how that is divided. The Liam girlies tend to be Callum girlies because you're rooting for an underdog. You really picked the extra one and said, that one. I want the scraggly puppy.
Yeah, that one in the corner, that's mine.
Yep, that's yours. Now, the Niall girlies. Y'all confuse the fuck out of me.
I feel like it's a plethora of everything in there.
It is split almost evenly.
That is,
and that
kind of makes sense.
I don't understand you.
I think it kind of makes sense because I think it's because Niall was almost an enigma in that group in 1D. He kind of like, because he didn't really have like his space until later on in their era.
Yeah, he was always just the Irish one for a really long time.
Basically, yeah. So he kind of just didn't fit in.
Yeah.
So I think people just would have floated elsewhere as see fits.
Yeah, that's fair. But it's weird. Now, I want you to guess who you think the top D 5 sauce pairing is.
Ooh. I am going to go Harry Ashton, I think.
Okay. You are correct.
Yes! Get those
now, I have some
skills out.
I have some reasoning for this, okay? I have some reasoning why I think these two are the top. First off, they both had a bandana phase. Look at those little cutie bandana boys.
Yeah, beautiful.
They have matching tattoos. I think they actually technically have two. They're not intended to be matching, but they did both end up getting the late tattoo on that night show. And then I think they both have like a star or something in like a really similar
I think
underarm situation. They both arguably have the best solo albums of the group. Fight Me.
Yep.
Fight Me.
Yeah. I think that's very valid to say.
And you know what? They could have been in-laws.
Yeah.
They could have. Gemma Styles, you missed your opportunity. It's okay.
What a crazy overlap. We forgive you, hon.
Listen, if I was Gemma Styles, I would wake up listening to English Love Affair every single day.
I would
just knowing that was
myself.
about me.
I would have listened to it and jumped off a cliff. Like, how'd you come back from that? She is braver than I.
I would feel so iconic that I had like a little fling, and he was so enraptured by me that he wrote that song.
Yeah, true. But I'd also be like, he's the one that got away. At least from my perspective. Maybe I know she doesn't. I know she doesn't feel like that, but like, you know, in my head,
she's like married with. That's how I know. So I'm sure she's. Oh yes, fine.
She's absolutely thriving, and I love her. So slay queen.
But
yeah, that makes sense in my brain.
That's my reasoning behind why they're the favorites. So here's the full breakdown. Okay. This is.
Oh, wow! This is wild.
Yeah, so like Niall and Callum was at a 9.5%, but then we have Niall Ashton at an 8.5%, and then we have Niall Michael a little bit lower at 5%, and then where did Niall Callum? Oh, Niall Callum was first. Oh, wait, Niall Ashton, Niall Luke. Niall and Ashton and Niall Luke were the same, and then Niall Michael was just like the lowest. But like Callum, Ashton, Luke are all really, really close.
Yeah, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. That is really, really interesting. It's interesting too that, like, it's Harry and Niall who are the dominant pulls that like, and their pairing, like they're all like all the bigger areas. How interesting.
Now, interestingly enough, there was one pairing that had none from our data. I think it was Liam Luke, but let me double check.
That kind of makes sense based on everything. That is so interesting to me.
No, Liam Luke must have had one because it's on there. No, it was Liam Ashton. There were 0 Liam Ashton girlies out there.
Yeah.
At least in my research. Granted, do you exist? Sure, maybe, but...
Yeah, let us know. One person who's out there in the world, please stand up.
Yeah,
that is really interesting. It also leads to the idea that like Ashton is quite the dominant member of Five Sauce, given how he appears on the top. That's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
How?
So that's all I had. Yeah. Thank you.
No, that's given me a lot to chew on. You know, I'm like, wow, this is fascinating stuff. People are so interesting. Fandom culture is so interesting, and it's unfortunate that like, especially like, I don't want to say female led because I don't want to gender something because it's not gendered, but typically speaking, female led fandom spaces get a lot of fucking shit from the media and society, which I think is stupid. Does sometimes things get too far, but unfortunately it's usually the loud wrong minority that kind of ruin the vibe. But it's so interesting that those spaces, they're so important to people and to the internet, and I think that it's like, as much as the internet is inherently like not great, and did I definitely do things that I shouldn't have done at my age, 1000%, but having those places where I felt like I belonged was so incredibly wonderful. And I'm glad that people aren't necessarily ashamed of that now. Like, I know some people kind of look down on fandom culture. I'm like, I do not give a shit. You could tell me you are 70 years old and you are in the Doctor Who fandom, and I am there with you, like, iconic. Like, who cares? Do not let age come in the way of your silly little interests, because I think it's so special. I'm like, yeah! And I'm glad it's kind of like people are making that resurgence again. I'm like, yes, allow people to just have spaces to enjoy things, please. It's also way better.
I did forget this in the presentation, but I went through and found the top 4-way pairing. Okay. So for all the bands, it was Louis, Ashton, Kendall, and Joe, aka my 4 faves.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, I think, in my head. Yeah.
Yeah, you can here's my little like, oh, you can't really see it. Hold on.
I can't really see it. I'll trust you though.
Here's my little color-coded chart that I was going through and comparing everything.
Yeah. I respect the hustle. This makes me want to do other data-led like stuff like this, because I'm genuinely so fascinated by people's like overlaps and interests. Like, I think it's always so interesting. Same with like books. It's like, who is your favorite like character, or how we were saying like, what's your favorite in a trilogy, and we're like usually like, oh, our number 2 is our least favorite. Like I think that kind of thing is always so interesting, because like people are so different and quirky. Like,
listen, I am like a personality test slut.
Same.
Love being told about myself. Read me to filth, please. We should do a whole episode about that. Just taking personality tests.
Everything. Yeah, because I just find them fascinating, because I don't know, like, there's part of me that's like, is the day and the stars aligning that I was born going to genetically change my, like, is it going to inherently make that big of an impact? Like, scientifically, probably no, but it's so fun to think that because I was born 1 minute earlier, that I'm a fucking hugely different person than if I was born like 1 minute late. Like, you know, I think that's kind of fun to just have that mysterium in the air. Let me live and enjoy those things. It's so unharmful.
Do I think astrology is some mumbo jumbo bullshit? Yeah. Do I also believe in it wholeheartedly? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because here's
that's kind of how I
horoscope. Feel. Sometimes I read my horoscope and I'm like, that's so spot on. That's accurate.
It's causing no one any harm, and I am believing in it. So if anything, it's causing me harm, and I'm allowed to be delusional and fucking stupid. So let me live my life in peace. If I want to believe that I'm gonna win the lottery this month, then let me believe that.
Yeah.
Let me sit there. I keep getting like, I had this era, like I think a lot of people had this era probably during COVID, when people would do like tarot pool readings on TikTok. And obviously the inherent trick there is with anything on TikTok, the more you watch something, the more the algorithm gives it to you. So the more tarot card readings you're getting, so the more similar ones you're getting, so the more the stars align, right? That's kind of how that system goes. Yes. I haven't had them in so long. My For You page has been all over the place. And then when this was like a few days ago, it was on TikTok, and like the first video I found was like this guy, and it's a satire tarot reading, so it's like different. There's this guy being like, oh, this is your star alliance, like your angel number is like 333, Leon Kennedy wants you. And I was like, how did I end up here? Like, what stars align for me to get here? It was so funny. And I went for his page, and basically he does it with like loads of video game characters and like Resident Evil characters, where he's like blank blank blank, and I'm like, this is so funny that this has now come back to me.
Yeah, that is.
But wild. I do. Yeah, that like you said, like the Wattpad era, like, oh my gosh. And now AO3 is taking over.
I've said it before. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I read after when it was on Wattpad, before it was a published book. Okay, I read it as a Harry Styles fan fiction.
Yeah, that. To be fair, I would say like I was big. Like I did definitely read a lot on Wattpad. I definitely wrote a lot on there. I then unfortunately lost the void because I don't remember the user details, which is such a shame, because I'd love to go through them and just be like, what the fuck was I doing? Because I know they were horrific. But I also was quite big on like the Tumblr like imagines and fanfics and shit that people would put on there. Like the way that someone would post something and there wouldn't be a link to the next chapter, and I genuinely would like be gnawing at the bars of my enclosure, and they'd have the GIFs included, so you'd like get 5 and they'd have the playlist. I was insane. I'd come home from school
when they
and
would
write
a one shot based on just like a specific GIF.
Deceased. They ruled the world. If you are out there, right, and you did this, you don't have to make yourself known if you don't want to be. But just know you did such a service for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people. And I truly, truly just have to give you my thanks deeply, because I would literally just come home from school and just be sat. Well, I do other stuff, but like, you know, in bed, the classic like in bed reading fanfiction thing. Oh.
And when they would have the little like outfits from Polyvore, like included, like here's a little one shot on your coffee date with Harry, and this is what you're wearing, and this is what he's wearing. Like, ate that shit up.
Yeah.
Nom, 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 nom.
And obviously, there's like negatives to all of that. It was very like white, female, skinny centric. Inherently problematic, very awful, toxic, but at the time like no one really cared, because it like I also think as well, like I don't know if it's just me, and like maybe just because I'm slightly not wired properly in the brain, but when like you'd have like read especially when I was younger. Now I think I'm not that I don't really read any like slash read of things, because I don't like it. I don't know, I'm like, ooh, I don't know, there's part of me that's like, no thanks. But when I would read them, I would envision YN as like an outer body experienced person. Like I wouldn't envision them as me per se. Like it would be me, but like it wouldn't be me. It's almost like
it was like an OC me.
Yeah, it was like basically. So like
Yeah.
It wasn't, there was a disconnect to me that I was like,
Yes.
if they told me, I think that's, yeah. So it's I don't know, I do miss that. Bloody YN. Now you don't get it anymore. You don't, people don't really write like your name fanfics in it. It's just like either like,
Oh no, they're
the
still out
perspective
there.
is shifted. No, they are, but like when you look on like AO3, when you have most reader things, they are like not. People have just blanked that out and they just don't say a name to you, basically, or the way the perspective is shifted. But yeah, they. Oh no, I'm sure they're out there, but it's not as common.
I love that era of fandom and how like there are still like inside jokes to this day. Like the "You're So Funny" trend that was happening with, ironically, 5 Seconds of Summer song. And I saw one where it was like, "You're so funny." It was like, "Thanks, my mom sold me to my favorite band to pay for drugs." And I'm like, that is such a niche One Direction trope that like.
Who was I talking about that to? I was having a conversation with someone.
Oh yeah.
It was me and a few people, and I was like, oh my god, I think it was at our like work Christmas party or something. It was something like that, because we were trying to explain it to someone, and I was like, it was just such a time where, was it that? It was to someone who definitely was not involved in the space, and I was saying like how a really big common fanfiction trope was the idea that you were being sold to One Direction. Like that in itself is I know it's technically that's not what a fanfiction trope is, but at the time that genuinely was its own fucking trope, along with like one bed. Like that was a thing. Like you being sold and going living on their tour bus was like a 1 in 2 chance of happening in like most fanfiction.
That it was either that or you were their stylist.
Yes, that was quite common.
Those
that
were
was
like
definitely very
the
common.
top two, I feel like. Or or you were a sister of one of the band members. That was like,
I don't know if this is just me personally, and I don't know what this says about me. I'm sure there's a lot to unpack here. I can never get on board with that dynamic, because I personally, and maybe it's just because I don't know, maybe it's just because I have a sibling who's so much younger than me that disconnect will always be there, potentially. But like for me, I could not imagine anything worse than being a sibling and dating, like, for example, like, let's say I'm the sister of, I don't know, let's say I'm the sister of Louis, and then I date Niall. That's to me so weird, because I'm like, my brother's now in my shit. Like, he's involved, because his best friend is, like, my boyfriend. And, like, that feels like all sorts of weird boundaries are being crossed there, because I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know if I enjoy this. Like, because, you know, it's classic, like, the bros will chat shit. Not that all boys are, like, or anyone, for that matter, is, like, telling all the details of life. But in my head, I'm like, ew, like, don't be involved in myself. There feels like there's a disconnect in my brain that I'm like, I don't want you there. You feel too close to me.
Okay. I will just say, I totally understand what you're saying. I will say, obviously I'm not dating a famous band member.
What?
While being related to one. But I will say, my husband and his brother are 2 years apart, and they're really close. Like, they're like best friends. And I will say, now it could be different because they're brothers, but like those conversations don't happen.
Yeah,
I think it's all very much like tiptoe around the fact that we know we're all adults and adult things are happening, but also we don't discuss it because it's fucking weird. Because I'm also quite close with my brother-in-law. Like, I consider him a brother, so it's like we don't.
Which I think is like, I think that's normally how things would go. But I think in my like weird brain, and I think especially growing up and knowing and being exposed to like at school, like those discussions happening all the time, that I was just accustomed to believe that was something that, like, the second you did anything with anyone, they were fucking telling the entire fucking world, and everyone's business was your bit. Like, it was crazy. And in my head I was like, ew.
No, that's like, I so get what you're saying, and like my situation might be like more abnormal than normal, I don't know, but that was just like my thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, no, because I was always like, I don't like this. Like, do not relate me to someone. I also like, maybe just be a friend.
I'm not super close with all of my siblings, but the siblings I am close with, like, there is quite a big age gap for me as well. So like, me personally, I'm like, I wouldn't want my sibling around all the time.
Yeah.
Like, go away.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you know, it's like, you're cool, and I love you, and I cherish you, but I'm also like, I do not need you to be in my business. That's what I mean. I'm like, I just don't need you to be here. Like, I like, it's the whole, like, brother's best friend dynamic. I'm like, I just never was like, that's never something that I was like, yes. Like, I know some people love that idea. I'm like, ew. No.
I feel like I like it in theory, but like not for me.
Yeah, I can understand the appeal of it, but I'm like, I just don't need that in my life, because also like the paranoid anxiety of me is like, if we break up, this is incredibly awkward for all parties involved. Like, there's just so much that could go wrong, and I just don't need that in my life. Like,
No,
be the furthest distance apart from me as you possibly can, because then if things go south, we are running on separate train tracks, never to cross paths again.
See, I think what is more like, if you want to go that route, you have to do it as like whichever band you want to date. Okay, so let's say you want to date a One Direction member, you have to be a sister of one of the Five Sauce Boys.
Yes,
so that way the connection is there, but it's not as like overlapping.
Yeah.
That's where you actually need to be.
Also, as well, because it's, it'd be weird. Like, I guess it's the same. If, like, I guess this applies to anyone who's married or dating, or whose partner has a sibling that they work with. Like, if you're like, you know, people run a business together, I guess this is the same dynamic. But I'm like, I feel like, for me, I'm like, I don't want you hanging out with my, like, even though they're siblings. No, I don't know. There's part of me that's like, because you're siblings and you'd be grown. I'm like, why are you hanging out more together than with me? Like, you see him every day, and I don't. Like, kind of dynamic of like, this was weird because you were like, especially in the boy band era, it's like, well, you're going on tour together. And I just feel like
you
the
just go on
entity
tour
on the side.
with them.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's how those always work. You're not in school for some reason.
Yeah, and then you stay in their tiny bunk, and no one knows what's happening. I'm like, everyone knows what's happening.
Right.
Everyone knows what's happening in that twin bunk on that coach bus thing.
Bro,
not very subtle.
I would not want to sleep in one of those bunks with another human being.
No. Disgusting.
So small. I mean, I say they're so small. I mean, I've never actually seen one in person, but like,
no, they are very small.
Seem that big.
They are very small. I feel like I haven't slept in one of those, but like, I've been on a train. I haven't slept in one like on the train, but I've been on a train before where it has sleeper carriages, and I'm imagining a similar. You definitely can have two people fit in them. I don't imagine there's not a lot of
someone's arm is falling asleep though.
Yeah, you are sardined in there, which I can't imagine is the best thing in the world. There definitely is the space, but it's whether or not the comfort is there. And for me, I'd be like, no, thanks. You'd have to genuinely be like on top of each other.
See, my thing is, I love a good snuggle, but when I'm ready to go to sleep, I need my space.
Yeah, it's like, actually, I'm done now. The time is over for this. I'm moving away.
Okay, our allotted snuggle time is over. Get the fuck away from me.
It's like, you know, there's a time and a place, and then it's like, okay, well, this is my bedtime place, and my bedtime place is for me alone. You are not involved in this bubble. Thank you, goodbye.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Like, my sometimes, like, Kyle and I will snuggle to sleep, but it's very rare. He mostly can't, because he's a weirdly warm person, so he runs hot always. But, like, my, like, snuggle to sleep is, like, I put, like, a foot on his leg, and that's our, like, connection.
Yes. One finger, like, just touch. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think that's quite common now. I've seen, like, most people be like, it's actually more of a hassle to stay, like, not connected, but to stay close. It's like, it's just better to just not even try. Because you wake up and you're like, it's like, yeah, maybe this isn't best for most people. It doesn't have the illusion that it gives in movies. Like, in the movies, they don't move. They, like, fall asleep and they wake up in the exact same position, and it's all beautiful.
Listen, here's the other thing in movies that bothers me, and this is going to get a little bit graphic. So if you're not comfortable with sexual talks, move along.
Goodbye.
But it bothers me so much in movies when there are sex scenes, and then they just, like, fall asleep together, and they don't show the awkward any cleanup that needs to happen, depending on if you use protection or not, and B, pee after sex, people. Pee after sex.
Yeah.
And they never show that.
Yes. No, because this is the thing, right? Does it take away? No, it doesn't actually take away. Inherently, it doesn't take away. I understand from a cinematic POV that, like, it takes away from the experience. I would 1,000 times disagree with that, because it's all part of the same act. And also, it's accidental, like, misinformation and expectations that you're putting to people, because these are things that, like, people don't talk about and need to be talked about. Like, I get it. Some people don't want to be told. Like, I get it. Some people, it's uncomfortable for some people, especially, like, if you're, like, ace and you're like, ooh, like, absolutely valid. Like, your feelings are valid. But safety is so important that sometimes you have to just overcome that slight barrier, where I'm like, no, these things are important, guys. Like, please.
Yeah,
please actually, like, consider that.
People have, like, sex talks, but they don't really get into, like, the nuances of it.
No, the sex talk is actually, like, DIY instructions of how to insert usually, and I'm like, okay, that's like
I think we
one
can all
step
figure
of
that
a.
out.
That's like, yeah, you can kind of fumble about and figure it out. That's like a one step
Yeah.
in 10 kind of thing going on here.
Yeah. But it's like the whole fact that like you can't use certain loops with condoms because it will like
Yes.
break
How
down the
would you
condom. Like
know?
people don't talk about stuff like that. And it's like,
How would you know? How would you know? You wouldn't know.
how would you know?
You wouldn't know.
Unless you Google it.
I genuinely don't think I ever like learned about like peeing after sex until I was like at least 18, 19, which is incredibly late considering not incredibly late. That sounds bad, but late considering the fact that of when you should actually probably be learning about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because whilst I was like still fine and hadn't like done anything at that point, that's beside the point. I was setting myself up for harm, like, which is not good.
Because as someone
So,
who
like,
has had a UTI because of that,
yeah,
it's
which is
not
like,
fun.
it's like, exactly. And it's like, okay, there are definitely worse things, but like, that's not the point. There should be no badness occurring. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It should be all good. Yeah, that's my like biggest pet peeve. It's like, I get that some people don't want to be like telling the thousands about all these details. I'm like, you don't need to. Just be aware of things. It's not hard. Like, like the whole like lube thing. People are scared, and I'm like, bro, some people just need it. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
It's not a threat or a scam. Like, who cares?
Scam.
Like, but it feels like it's a big conspiracy, and I'm like, it's literally not.
No, I agree. In a similar vein, I will say, listen, I loved the Tumblr era. It defined me as a person in good ways, but also bad ways, because I was definitely reading things I should not have been reading, and people were writing things. Here's the thing: I'm not a big smut person now. Mm-hmm. I think because of my Tumblr phase, but like people really do just be writing shit and putting it out there. Without a lot of thought. And like, yes, I know people include like trigger warnings and everything like that, but the stuff I read, I was far too young, and I think it really did warp my sense of what relationships looked like and what love looked like and what sexual relationships looked like and like all that. It's hard to like unwire parts of your brain.
It is. Well, that's why what you were saying about like like movies and that, it's like that's why it's important, because it is hard to readjust and relearn behaviors you see or consume. It is. Mm-hmm. It's the same with like smut now. Like, it's like I'm not going to say you can't read it or it shouldn't be written. I would never do that. I don't believe in that kind of policing at all. I think it's ridiculous. But I think there needs to be, like you said, like better warnings at the front, because a lot of them, it's like you don't know what you're getting into. They're usually targeted towards a YA group, and that can be a very big range of people now, with more people getting into reading, especially like young girls. And it's like, it just feels there needs to be a tiny bit more cushioning there, as someone who definitely was exposed to things that I should not have been. And like, okay, I'm fine, but like, I'm, like you said, I'm still rewiring and readjusting a lot of things in my life that I probably don't need to be doing. So it's like, let's just like not do this. Because I'm like, I saw a TikTok and there was this like, there's this person in this bookstore. I think it was Barnes & Noble. It doesn't really matter where it was. But like this girl, like, first of all, don't film people without permission. This is a first off. So bad omen for the TikToker anyway. But they were in a bookstore and they were filming. I think they were like filming something for a friend and then they caught this on video. But this girl, to be fair, they did blur her face, but like from the commenter, like from the OP's perspective and like kind of the vibe of the person, they were probably maybe like 13 to maybe 16 at a push, like in that range. And they picked up Haunting Adeline, which, if you know what that is, that's an incredibly like horrid dark romance book. And it's like, this is why, like, and like, if you read the back of that book, I don't know what the back of that book says, but I can't imagine it's exploding in detail of what is occurring. But I'm like, this is why it's bad, because you like, yes, can these people read these books? Yes, but it's also like, I don't imagine someone is necessarily checking that, and like, maybe that's okay and that's the dynamic they have, but like, I'm like, that's not necessarily great, especially if that's like a first exposure to like sex and it's Haunting Adeline, where it's like stalker dark romance.
Well, I think it's also like
that can't do good to you.
Even when I'm reading, it's like there are certain books you're going to pick up and you know that they're going to have smut in them.
Yeah.
But like if I pick up a book and I'm thinking it's just gonna be, you know, run of the mill romance or romantasy or whatever, and then all of a sudden we've got some graphic smut happening, it even throws me off. I'm like, can we get a warning? Like,
Yeah. It also
because it's
it
also
also goes
like,
back to this. It also goes back to this idea that like because inherently it's always very like heterosexual. It always goes back to this idea like that is the end all be all of relationships, and it's not. For a lot of people, it doesn't matter. For some people, it matters a lot, and that's okay. Like it's the spectrum, but it brings it back to the idea that like you are there to please said partner, usually male,
yeah,
and it's like that's not.
mhm. Yes, for sure. Yeah, 100%. It's not.
We have been conditioned to believe that we should enjoy being beaten the shit out, and some people love that. Absolute slay, like not gonna
Good for
yuck your
you.
yum, but like maybe we shouldn't be saying that's the norm because it isn't realistically, is it?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's okay to like vanilla sex. Like that is
Yes,
okay.
there's
Just because
nothing
you
wrong with
like
that.
missionary doesn't make you a bad person.
No, you're okay. You're valid. How did we get here? How did we get here from boy bands? What have we done?
I don't know. I don't know. We can.
But these
We can.
important PSAs from us as people who read things, consume things that were not probably the best. Learn
Yes.
from, no, I wouldn't say even our mistakes, but learn from our past, our consumption.
Our guidance.
Yes. Yeah, I was reading some whack ass shit. Like anyone who was in like the Dan and Phil space definitely read like the milk fic, the fucking like hat fic.
I wasn't enough in the space to have read
Well,
those.
good for
However,
you.
this did I read the 21 Pilots Forest fic?
That just unlocked a door in my brain. Like I felt
Was
the
that like a
key
sleeper
turn.
agent?
I felt like the key turn in my head, and something just opened. Like I physically felt a neuron fire in that moment. That was
I will say, I knew what it was going into it, and I read
Yeah.
it more out of like curiosity.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was so nosy. Yeah, when people are like, "Oh, don't read like blank and blank," well, I'm like, I have to know now because I'm so
Yeah.
sick and twisted. I'm like, if you're saying it's
Yeah.
so bad, it can't be that bad. And then I was like, no, this is actually bad.
Here's the thing though, okay? This is gonna be this is gonna be such a weird thing. I am 100% sure that Tyler and Josh have read the Forest fic because Tyler makes slight subtle references to it, and it's questionable. It's questionable, okay? Because with their whole new album, they had a music video for every song, and some of them had like lore attached to them with the whole like overarching story that takes place with all of the albums. Okay, we're not going to get into all of it because it's a lot, but in like the lore of Dima, Josh is like, it's revealed that Josh is actually not there, but Tyler is seeing him to help guide him, and I'm like, that man read the Forest fic. You cannot convince me otherwise. You cannot.
The thing is, if I was famous and people wrote fanfiction about me,
I'd read it.
I have to know. I just need to
Yeah.
know what they think of me and the people that I am in the space with, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just so inherently, it's not even like from an egotistical point of view, I'm just so inherently nosy and curious that I just need to know what is occurring.
No, 100%. You cannot. You got. It's like, here's the thing. If I was famous at this point in my life, I'm too chronically online to not create a secret account to like stalk with and interact with my fans. I'm gonna like the edits of myself.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
No, 100%. I would have a secret account, and I'd be all up in my own fandom.
Yeah.
I'd be starting rumors in my own fandom just for shits and giggles.
Well, it's like I said before, I was like, if I was famous, I would edit my own Wikipedia page and with lies and see how many people would try and fact check them and like how much. And like, okay, is that probably inherently problematic? Yes, but it's also fucking funny, okay? Because it wouldn't be anything harmful. It'd be like, I owned 7 hamsters as a kid, and it'd be like, well, maybe you have to fact check this now. Like, who knows? And does that make me a chronic liar? Yeah, but it's kind of okay because I've now admitted to it here. So if it ever does happen, you know it's part of a scheme, and I'm not trying to be like a liar and a manipulator. It's just because I think it's a funny prank.
Because
really
I agree.
prank.
I think it's little funny things like that. Like
yeah,
nothing detrimental. Just like little fun stuff.
And if I'm gonna get cancelled over it, so be it. I wasn't meant to be famous anyway. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like,
listen, here's the thing. Truthfully, neither of us are built to be famous.
Oh god, no. Fuck no. I'd be so unwell. Like, I'd be so unwell. Mentally, physically, emotionally unwell.
Like, I desperately wanted to be a famous YouTuber in like that era, but like in hindsight, I'm like, oh my god, I'm so glad I'm not a famous YouTuber.
Oh yeah, no, I just cannot. I it's funny as someone who's like, it'd be so cool, but then I'm also, I genuinely feel disgust in my bones at the idea of being perceived by anyone. So I'm like, that kind of doesn't work well.
That, and also just like, especially for like the YouTube sphere of like, you have set the expectation that people are entitled to your life.
Yes.
That it's really hard to like roll that back.
Yeah, no. Once you lay out that, once you open that window, it ain't showing. There's always a breeze. Yeah, no. And we yap too much that it's over. Like, it's over for us. Because someone would ask me a question and I just give them the information because I just fucking have to yap.
Yeah. Now, that being said, do I want this podcast to pop off and get famous? Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's like, I feel like it's different because there's a different disconnect when you're doing podcasting, because we're sat down doing set topics and like while we go on tangents, it's not necessarily like as vast. It's quite a still small net in that way. But yeah, no, part of me was like, oh, maybe I should do like streaming, and I was like, ew, no, because I just don't need that in my life, you know. I'm content. I'm content just existing in my own sphere, and I just have fake scenarios in my head that I am living that life, and I get satiated that way, which is totally healthy and totally okay. No one send that to my therapist, please do not. That is not okay.
I was just thinking of that one John Mulaney audio. I was like, let's change the subject because we don't have time to unpack all of that.
Yeah, nah. Me and my like 70 lives I'm living in my head. Who's that? Not me.
That's the best. We don't admit that on the internet because that's too much. That's too deep.
Well, I've admitted it now.
No, you have, yeah.
70's a bit of a stretch, actually. It's not that big. I'm not that delusional.
You're not that unhealthy.
No. I know my limits. I was exaggerating for the people at home. Just in case it wasn't obvious. I don't want to put that out there. I am medicated and well enough to be okay. This is not a cry for help.
Actually, no, it's not. I know when Scar is crying for help, so we're okay. I've been around the block long enough.
I don't even know when I'm crying for help. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm here. The NPC is
You're actually, and I hope you don't take offense to this, you are so much like more mentally well now than when we first started being friends.
I know. How good is that?
Because like,
I was not okay.
This, I want you to understand, I'm not saying this to be mean to you in any way, okay?
No, I know.
But we all went through an era, and you were not this bad, but we all went through an era with a suicidal friend that we had to stay up till 3 a.m. talking them off the ledge, literally.
Yeah.
And when we first met, you were real close to being that friend.
I was in the trenches. I was for real in the trenches. Yeah. I was not okay.
Scar used to just disappear for days at a time and not speak to anybody. And like at the time, I had no way of knowing if you were okay.
Yeah. And that's on unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Yes. Scar is much better now.
I am. And I feel better now. I look back on that era and I'm like, I'm better.
A, you are just mentally better, but also B, you are better at communicating. So when you are having a little bad brain day, you're like, hey, bestie, I'm just going to go off for a while. And I'll be like, okay. See you when you get better.
For a while.
I meant like go offline. Okay.
No, I know. No, yeah. No. I'm healing. I'm continuing my journey.
I'm so proud of you.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I was like, where is this going? I was like, okay. Yeah, it'd be like that.
To also be fair, we met in like not the actual like the full height of the pandemic, but earlier on that it was still a mentally tough time for a lot of people. So
well, also as well, like I guess I'm still young now, but I was a teenager. Yeah, I was 19 when we met because I was in my second year of university. Yeah, how disgusting is that?
Oh my god.
Yeah. And now I'm almost 24. Yeah. Yeah. The
I always
concept
forget
of
how much
time.
younger than me you are.
I also forget too. For some, in my brain, we're the same age, and I know that's not correct. But in my head, I'm like, no, we are just one entity together.
Wait,
who has been split.
It's your golden birthday.
It is. It is.
Your golden birthday's coming up. That's so exciting.
I know. I'm gonna enter the lottery. I'm gonna win. It's gonna be so exciting, guys.
Then we can buy an F1 team.
Exactly.
That's our lottery plans. If Scar wins the lottery, we're buying an F1 team. Or just making one. We don't even have to buy a new.
Yeah.
Like, buy one.
Do I know the logistics of it? No, but we'll find out and we'll figure it out.
Or if we're gonna buy one, we're gonna buy Williams.
Yeah. And just redo them all and just be like, start from fresh.
Yeah, except Alex. Alex can stay.
No, Alex can stay. Yeah, that's true. That is true.
And Frank will come back.
We'll do a little bit of a rebrand, Yeah, we'll make a cunty F1 team. That's the vibe.
Yeah, I was saying we're gonna pick drivers based solely on vibes. I don't care what their talents
1,000%.
are. If you give bad vibes, you're not on the team.
No, we are on the track to slay.
Who gives really bad vibes?
Yeah, he is not allowed near our motorhome. We are picking the opposite end of the motorhome to that team and driver. Yeah, that's the only exception. Like our media team will Steak. We're coming for your media team vibes because it's over.
We're gonna poach the person behind the F1 TikTok.
Yeah. There's so many plans.
They're ours now
in Britain. Yeah. And I'll buy a big estate. We can all live on it. It'd be excellent vibes. Depending on how much I win, obviously. In my head, I'm winning the Euro Millions, which is like 43 million. But in reality, I'll probably win like a tenner. But we got to start somewhere. I'll put it in the fund.
Can we have chickens on the estate?
Oh, 1,000%. Yes.
Yes.
I don't know why I did like the gay hand for the chickens, but I guess that's the vibe. I was like, yes, chicken. Yes, we'll definitely have chickens. We can live our little Stardew fantasy as well. It'll be absolutely wonderful.
Speaking of Stardew, this is the last tangent I will go on, and then we can end this episode because at this point we're just yapping to yap. I was at the grocery store yesterday.
Okay.
And I was shopping away, right? And I look over at something and I was like, raisins. Do I need raisins? I don't remember putting raisins on my list. And then I realized, no, I need to make raisins and ship them in Stardew Valley so I can reach perfection. But the lines are becoming so blurred between Stardew and my real life.
It's all one and the same now. It's all one. Yep. Funny you mention that because I was flicking through a food magazine, and in there they have what is it? What did they describe it as? It was like a blueberry pie, and that's something that you need to make in Stardew Valley. And I was thinking about it, I was like, I made one of these recently. I'm like, no, I fucking didn't make a blueberry pie recently. That was in a video game, you silly bitch. I was like, no, that is factually incorrect. I was like, how do I even cross that wire?
Because my brain thinks in TikTok sounds, the first one that I thought of was, there's not going to be a swimming pool, you stupid slut.
That's exactly the audio that was playing over that moment.
You didn't make a blueberry pie, you stupid slut.
I did it and I was like, oh, I've already made one of these. I picked something else. And I was like, no, I didn't. When have I done that? I've never made a pie in my life. I was like, what? I was like, I just need to be away. Be away from things. It's a good thing that my Switch is dead.
I hope mine doesn't die because mine's relatively new, but someone should take it.
Yeah, mine is kind of an ancient artifact a little bit, but rest in peace. I'll hold a funeral if needed. Yeah, it'll have a funeral if needed, but hopefully Nintendo can answer my prayers. Please.
All right, I think we
my only hope.
We have yapped enough.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed our descent into madness. That's the only way I can describe this at this point.
Truly.
It started off so great. I had a whole little analysis, and now look at where we ended up.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually how things go, though, to be fair. So
that's true.
Start strong, end
so let us...
weak. Questionable? Messy?
Questionable. Chaos?
Yeah. Probably the better word to use.
Yeah. Listen, we're just here to yap.
Yeah, truly. That is my job description.
Let us know in the comments if you were on Tumblr. What was your first user, if you remember? I want to try and see if I can figure out what my first Tumblr user was. I'm gonna go do a little looking because I've changed it so many times, but I want to try and find what it was.
That's an archivist day out. That is. I'm gonna like really delve into the mines.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go do a little searching. And we'll see.
Yeah.
What I can find. If I can find it, I'll share it on our social media platforms.
That'd be brilliant. I'd love to see.
Yes.
A relic.
All right. That's it. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. To stay connected with us, then follow us on social media, which are linked in the description. I've been Emily.
And I've been Scar.
Tune in next time for the best cottagecore podcast for the cottage whores.